Welcome, Impeccable Parents. I have a very special guest today. His name is Matt Hilliard-Forde, and Matt is a relationship expert based out of Toronto, Canada. He's a veteran of Toronto's men's group community and the co-founder of the Evermen men's group community in Toronto. He's the proud dad of a 16-year-old boy and a 12-year-old daughter. And I brought Matt on today to talk about a very difficult subject, and that is, how do we talk to our kids about sex? And yes, I truly, truly believe that right now, as we are quarantined and we are forced together, this is actually an opportune time. Talk to your teenagers. They are stuck there in the house with you. This is when you can corner them into the corner. No, I'm just joking. But you can go ahead and present those conversations with your teenagers. It's so important. And Matt's going to give us an insight on some really good ways to do that. So thank you and welcome, Matt.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So I want to get started by asking you, when and why did you first start talking to your son about sex and sexuality?
It started when he was really young, and it was when I was reading to him at bedtime, and he would sometimes touch his penis because it felt nice.
Mm-hmm.
And
completely normal.
Completely normal. And then I explained to him that that's something that he could do when he was on his own, and that right now wasn't the appropriate time. And I don't know how much of that he understood, but I realized that I was awkward with him.
It's so great that you took somebody at such a young age and wasn't afraid to, dive into the subject right away. I feel like a lot of us as parents, we kind of hesitate and we hold back. We're like, oh, I'm just going to ignore that happening. But it is so much better if you can set that precedent young and say, it's okay to talk about it.
I was aware of how awkward I felt as well. He wasn't awkward at all. Like, this was just a thing, he could have been touching himself, or he could have been like scratching an itch on his head. Like, it didn't make any difference to him. So I was very aware that I was bringing the awkwardness. If there was any, it was me.
So how did you deal with that awkward feeling that you had?
I tried doing some, like, why am I feeling so awkward? What am I worried is going to happen? What am I so scared of? What am I so ashamed about? And it came to a point where I was like, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm just going to do it and feel awkward.
So you just dove in head first.
I just dove in. So yeah. This is gonna feel really awkward, and I'm probably not gonna do this perfectly. I'm probably not gonna say this exactly as I want to. I'm probably gonna look back and go, oh my God, like I just was just so fumbly, and but I'm gonna do it.
But two things you just said there that were really important is, one, you didn't stray away from your fear of looking weird and being awkward and saying the wrong things. And two, you gave yourself grace in that you knew this isn't going to be perfect. I'm just going to go in there and do my best and we'll see what happens. And I think that is exactly what parents need when they start into this conversation, because they are afraid. That's why we don't have the conversation if you choose not to. It's because of our own fears.
Yeah.
If I bring it up, am I planting something in their brain? Which, by the way, you're not. If I bring it up, am I going to look weird? Are they not going to come to me? It's all our fears that we're worried about as parents. It's not coming from the children.
Whether my son comes to me or not, he at least knows that he can, because we've been doing this for years now.
Why do you think it's so important for you to talk about with your kids right now about their sex or sexuality?
They're getting information from their friends, which is probably partially accurate at best. They're getting information from the web, which is everything you can possibly imagine. It could be both the best information and the worst information. Assume they're watching porn in some way. If they're not actively watching it, they've watched it. And that's a conversation that I've had with my son a few times, that porn is theater, it's maybe even sport. It's like hugely different. In most cases, it's hugely different from how sex looks and feels in real life. So I wanted to address any preconceptions that he might be gathering from from porn, from other places on the internet, from his friends. And I know he gets some degree of sex education at school, which is important and helpful, and it's the biological stuff. But I also remember my sex education at school. It didn't address intimacy. It didn't address the emotional side of it. Didn't address lust, passion, jealousy, all those things that we feel with such intensity when, especially when we're teenagers. It doesn't really delve into those at all. So it felt necessary to at least have talk about some of those things, and what does it feel like to be with another person intimately? How do you get to that stage where you have the opportunity to be with somebody intimately, and then what do you do? Like how do you take that next step? How do you know whether to take that next step? So to be able to at least begin to talk about those things felt really, really important.
And I love that what the essence of what you said there was that you're teaching your children the things about sex and intimacy that you cannot read or watch in a movie. I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
I know you have a son and a daughter. So
Yeah.
you talk to your daughter also, or is it an agreement with you and your spouse that you, keep it, male and male, female and female? I'm just curious how you do that in your household.
I feel as my daughter is older now that there's maybe more opportunity for her and I to talk about it as well in a different way. I know that my daughter's mum is talking to her about puberty and the changes that she's beginning to experience in her body, and her mum's definitely the best person to talk to her about that.
And the reason I ask is so many parents stray away from talking about sex with their opposite sex child.
Yeah.
And there can be a lot of value that comes from those conversations. It can't be, you can't know everything exactly what you were saying. Like, you don't know what it's like to have a period and to be a woman because you're not. And so that's okay. And to pretend, not to pretend that you would know. But at the same time, you would give a lot of value to your daughter as your spouse would give a lot of value to your son on a different perspective. And but it is hard. I mean, a lot of families don't do it. Of course, a lot of families just shy away from the subject altogether. So
I get it. It's so awkward.
The little bit that you can do is going to be the right thing to do. And the more you can do is even better. So I'm just, just to say to our parent audience at home who are watching this right now, you're taking baby steps toward this, goal of trying to educate your children, and keep it baby steps. And it's okay. And it's okay to be awkward, and it's okay for years, and it's okay not to be perfect. And then it's okay to mess up and have to come back to it and say, you know what, let me try that again.
Absolutely. And like you said, I think any step is a good step, even if it feels like you've fumbled it.
Just to close out, do you have any tidbits, any other things you would like to add to our audience on how they can make these conversations, how they could get started, anything?
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a list together. What did you have to find out for yourself about sex and relationships and intimacy when you were a teenager? So I compiled them into this document, and I titled it things that I had to find out for myself about sex and relationships and other advice. And so I've created a version of that for your audience, and if they email me, I'll send it to them. And there's a very short list of questions at the top that you can ask yourself about your fear, your shame, your embarrassment, and a couple of steps of how to walk through those so you can begin these conversations feeling perhaps even a little bit more comfortable.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. And go ahead and tell us, how do we get a hold of you so that we could get that amazing resource?
Email me at mattcoach.com. So if you email me, I'll send you that PDF. And my website is relationshipsthatwork.coach.
If you want to have conversations with your kids, a couple things. Just one, start those conversations early, like Matt said. That was great advice. Second, don't be afraid to be awkward. Don't afraid to have those conversations. Just dive right in. And that if you're going to have these conversations with an older child, such as a teenager, going for a walk is an amazing suggestion, because teenagers don't want to be sat down. And it is much harder for them to talk to you when you are face to face. However, when you go for walks, you are side by side. And there's something about a side by side walking that allows a teenager to open up more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kristina. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this.
Awesome. Have a great day.